Hi guys, this is Angela and welcome to a new episode of Drawing My Favorite Films. Today I'll be drawing the 2005 film version of Pride and Prejudice. From the first shot of the movie, I was drawn to the beautiful natural lighting glowing on the screen. The film was completely shot on location in England. The introduction was one long shot that follows Elizabeth, our main character. It stops at the doorway of the Bennet home and then introducing Jane, and then Lydia and Kitty running past Mary on the piano. As the camera pans and goes through another door on the other side of the house, we see Elizabeth walking past again, and we hear Mr. and Mrs. Bennet talking. This entire shot was just one long shot. It's an excellent example of the perfect usage of camera move and great lighting that really illuminate all the characters. Almost every single shot in this movie is beautifully lit and composed. This film really utilizes early morning and late afternoon golden hour lighting to add a beautiful glow to the characters and buildings. Natural light shines in from big windows, really lighting up the characters staged in front of it, which is a great way to frame characters. Really bright sunlight, or the lack of it, was used to depict various stages of emotion the characters go through. In the most iconic shot, sunrise brings warmth and joy to the scene, just as the character's mood shifts from sadness and longing to joy and full of love. I've selected out 4 screenshots that I will be drawing today. First, I will be laying down some line work. I usually use an HB pencil so that the line work can be as light as possible. The first composition is a symmetrical composition with the Bennet family's house in the center. The 2 tall trees are so prominent in the composition and really frames the house perfectly. So I'll be drawing down the tree shapes first, and then I'll know exactly how big the house will be, indicating the top and the sides of the house. The pathway to the house is centered as well, which leads our eye to the house. And then I am just adding in the bushes and other detail in the composition. You'll notice I'm trying my best to simplify each shape as much as possible. I decided to not draw in the secondary tree that's on the right of the house because I think it will complicate my composition too much if I added that in. The second composition is of Elizabeth looking over the lake. I'm starting the drawing with the tree overlay as well. It's always good to set the big shapes first, and I'm simplifying the bushes near the tree into one shape. All the detail within will be added in the painting stage. As for the ground with grass, instead of focusing on each blade of the grass, it's good to just define the contour edge and the shadow that's leading into her. And in the distance, the small house will be an interesting detail in the background. I'll be drawing on the trees and bushes behind it and beside it so that it leads our eyes to the house. For the third composition, I originally selected a shot of a castle in the background and characters and trees in the foreground, but I later decided to do another shot, so I'll just speed through this portion of line work. The last composition is of Elizabeth walking away from her home before sunrise. As you can see, this screenshot is really dark, so I just tried to focus on area that I can actually see first, which are the bushes and the sky. And then for the rest of the composition, I'm just roughly drawing in shapes and lines and little indication of grass that points to the character. The little fence is a good detail to add. And now it's time for me to paint these beautiful shots with my acrylic markers. For the first composition, I'm using a wide range of browns and greens for the house and the bushes, and a slate gray for the pavement. The dapple lighting on the house is something that I want to depict, make sure that the house kind of glows like it does in the screenshot. The second composition I've selected is very warm. It has a lot of greens and yellows. Even in the background and the lake, there's a lot of greens. So I've decided to approach it so that I will have a warmer foreground and a cooler background. As for the character, I wanted to make sure I had rim light all around her so that she stands out against the lake. So I used a lot of blue-greens in the background. And then in the foreground, I used ochre yellow and a really warm green called grasshopper. And towards the end, I used a white extra fine marker to define the birds flying over the lake and white reflection on the lake. So for the third composition, I ended up drawing this really iconic shot of Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy having a moment in the very end of the movie. I hope I didn't spoil the movie if you were planning on watching it. This was a very challenging shot to draw because I've never drawn realistic portraiture with these acrylic markers. But I decided to give it a try, so I just gathered all of my warm colors, my beige, my skin pastel, my orange pastel, all of these warm, lighter colors. I really wish I had more extra fine markers to really define the eyes or the lips, but I had to just make do with what I had. For the very last composition, the screenshot I got is really dark, and I really had to use my imagination to fill in the gaps of what's really happening in the foreground. But I knew that I wanted to use a lot of cool colors, so I basically used all the cool colors I had. I used a lot of blue green, emerald green, light blue, slate gray, turquoise, and finally a very dark navy blue. When it comes to a monochromatic palette like this, I really need to just pay attention to the different lightness of the colors. I want to make sure the background elements fades back so that it gets lighter and lighter, and the foreground elements gets darker and darker. So that's it for these 4 small drawings of Pride and Prejudice. My favorite is the second drawing. I really like how the reflection in the lake turned out and how the color gradually goes from warm to cool. I hope this video was interesting or helpful or inspiring. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other videos in Drawing My Favorite Film series. That's it for today, and see you guys next time.